Welcome to our podcast, Nurturing Gratitude, where we're focusing on mental health strategies in disease care. In this podcast, we aim to provide insights and support for the rare disease community, providing caregivers with guidance for those living with rare conditions. We'll navigate the rare disease journey together, one episode at a time. Today, we're again speaking with Amanda Hull, and in our series, we've been speaking with those who've been touched by TANGO2 related deficiency disorder, a rare genetic disorder caused by changes in the TANGO2 gene. Those living with this disorder can experience episodes of acute and serious illness called metabolic crises, neurological problems, including intellectual delays and disability in developmental milestones, can also occur. TANGO2 deficiency can affect people very differently. There is currently no cure for the disorder, but research is underway to better understand and treat this disease. So, whether you are seeking support as a caregiver or here to learn about the intricacies of rare diseases, we are delighted you've joined us on this journey. Together, we'll navigate the challenges and triumphs of caregiving in the face of adversity. Special thanks to Horizon Therapeutics for funding this podcast and awarding the TANGO2 Research Foundation their #RareIsGlobal Advocate Grant, enabling us to produce this podcast series and develop educational resources to grow our offerings in support of the community. Today, I am once again speaking with the wonderful Dr. Amanda Hull, who is a UK-based educational psychologist and a parent to a TANGO2 warrior, 13-year-old Sebi. Amanda is a trainer and an expert in mental health first aid. And today, our topic is Nurturing Gratitude, a journaling guide for TANGO2 caregivers. This conversation is not medical advice. We encourage you to contact your local healthcare provider to discuss treatment and care options that are right for you and your loved ones. But Amanda, thank you once again for being with us today.
You're most welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
And, in our last episode, we sort of ended on this topic of journaling. And this is a big topic. So I would love to use our time for you to take us through the ins and outs of journaling, how we get started, what are ways to structure it, and maybe some exercises on even making that real and live, if we can, in this brief call.
Yeah, sure. So you might well have heard of journaling. You might hear people talking about it. It's quite big in the kind of well-being space, and the mental well-being space. People talk about it, but sometimes it's not really explained about what you do, how you do journaling. What is this thing about journaling? So I thought it would be a good opportunity to go through how to do it. It's not rocket science. It's not anything secretive or difficult. I'll just take you through how straightforward and simple it can be, but it can really have a really positive impact on how you think about things, how you approach tasks, and really be good for your well-being and your mental wellness. So let's dive in and let's have a little think about how we do journaling. So it could be as straightforward as a piece of paper or a pencil. I like to write with pencils rather than pens. So a pencil and a piece of paper. It could be a note on your phone if you're a digital person. It could be a document on a computer, whatever it is that you like. It could be that. Or you could go with something more structured, like an app on your phone or your iPad or your computer. There's so many different journaling apps. That's how I do it. I've got an app on my phone and I do it most mornings and most evenings. You can buy journals. I've got one sat on my windowsill over there. You can buy journals online, and so fill them in. They're already structured for you. Or like I say, you can just use a pen and a piece of paper. And if during this talk you want to get a pen and piece of paper and have a go at doing some of the things as I'm talking, that would probably be really good. That would be good practice and good for you. Well done. He was there already. He was prepared, knew what I was going to say. So aspects of journaling, what might that look like? Well, gratitude. That, I think we'll start there. Let's have a think about gratitude. So you might have heard about daily gratitude practices or practices of gratitude in the past. You probably have heard of it. But what does that mean, really? Gratitude means things I'm grateful for. So it's quite common and it's quite good practice to think about. Maybe let's start with 3 things that I'm grateful for. 3 things every morning to write down that I'm grateful for. So what could it be? I'm going to give you some starters, maybe. I'll give you some ideas, then you could, and I'll give you some examples of things I'm grateful for. So I'll give you some starters and some examples, and you can have a go. I am grateful for the way I. Could you finish that sentence? I'm grateful for the way I handled that
I'm
situation at
grateful.
work today. Go on,
Yeah,
Rahul.
I'm grateful for the way I feel this morning, which is refreshed and alive and present and delighted to be learning.
Fantastic. What a good example. Fantastic. Star student. I am grateful for my friend who. That might be a starter as well. I'm grateful for my friend who reminded me that I needed to be at the school assembly by 1 o'clock today and not 2 o'clock. So I didn't miss it. I'm grateful for that. That's a very, benign one, but I was grateful because it meant I got to hear my son doing his poetry reading today. I am grateful for getting to be able to do this podcast and talk about how everybody could be supported. I am grateful for the people that. Could that be a start? I'm grateful for the people that. I am grateful for. It could be much more broad, and sometimes we might find it more difficult to pick out those things. So it's good to maybe have those starters in mind. I'm grateful for my partner who, I'm grateful for my friend who, I'm grateful for, perhaps grateful for, at the very basic, I'm grateful for waking up this morning. If you can't think of anything else, I'm grateful for getting up this morning, getting out of bed. I am grateful for the fact I have food in my cupboards. I am grateful for running water. Whatever it is, it could be very, very basic. But try and be a little bit more specific than I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. Try and kind of get down those specifics.
I have this question about these situations where often when we're struggling, we tend to think that if only I didn't have this struggle, if only I didn't
Right.
have this toothache, things would be great. But I wonder if you could reflect on the inverse of that. Like right now, for instance, I don't have a toothache. So is it fair game for me to just think of all the wonderful or all the horrible things that aren't happening right now and feel grateful for those? How does that work?
Um, no, so that's a really good question. And sometimes our minds would go, I'm grateful that I haven't X or I haven't got a toothache, or I'm grateful that I'm not a refugee in a war-torn country at the moment, like all of those things, right? So I think it's much more tangible to show gratitude, to think about gratitude for the things you do have rather than the things you don't have, because that feels much more tangible to your life right now rather than kind of eliminating stuff I don't have. I'm glad I don't have that, it feels a bit more targeted, a bit more realistic, and it's about actually what really is happening rather than imagining. It's almost negative, isn't it? I'm imagining the worst case scenario. I'm glad it's not that. And that doesn't really enhance your day-to-day life necessarily. So maybe sometimes your mind will go there, but try and stick with the moment. Try and stick with what's now. And I'm not talking about always putting a silver lining around things. This was a really difficult situation, but at least, we can acknowledge things are hard and things are difficult, and we don't need to sugarcoat anything. But actually, if I can find things in my day that I've been grateful for, it just helps lift my mood, and it helps me look forward to things in a day. And it helps me be really mindful of relationships and things in my life that I do have. So yeah, that's where I would go with that one. We would start the day with gratitude practice. 3 things. My advice would be as well around that. And I met a lady who I was doing some work with, and she does the gratitude every day. And she said to me, I'm challenging myself to think of 3 different things every day this whole year. So she would come up with, by the end of the year, 900-ish things that she was grateful for. She wasn't ever going to repeat something. So she said, it's easy that I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my friends. Actually, she had to be quite specific by the end. And she said it really made her feel very mindful. And she became very reflective. about the things that she felt that she was truly grateful for in her life. So it wasn't just an easy, oh, I'm grateful for my comfortable mattress in my bed. Like it was a bit more pertinent. So
I love it.
maybe think about, that could be a challenge that people could do. Try and do something different every day. Because it might become almost like moving wallpaper. I write the same thing every day. That's it. It loses its impact. So the other thing that with journaling is maybe to think about goal setting. Now, this could be a 10 series. I mean, there's a whole podcast series on goals and achieving your goals and setting goals. But for purposes of this, let's think about daily intentions, maybe, rather than using the word goals. Let's think about intentions. Today, I would like to. We want to keep it kind of realistic. It almost, the function of this is to keep yourself accountable, really, because at the end of the day, you're going to check back in with your journal. It's the way I do it anyway, and it's the way a lot of journaling could work, is that you write in the morning, your intentions, and then in the evening you might check back in with yourself and just sort of keeps yourself accountable, really. So I'm going to give you some starters as well, because that's quite a useful way of getting into it. I'm going to say to you, keep it realistic. So my intention for the day is not to make $1 million, because that's not realistic, because my job doesn't pay me that, and that's not going to happen. But what might be realistic? So we're not going to go wild. We're not going to go for things out of reach. We're keeping it realistic and achievable. So I will go to that's my intention. I will go to the bank and do that thing I was meaning to do for ages. I will make that phone call to my physician because my knee's been hurting for a week and I need to get that checked out. I will send a message to my friend who I've been thinking about for a while, thinking about our taking care and being kind to people. I will call so-and-so. I will complete whatever it is I'm going to complete. So it's almost like a to-do list, but it's quite specific and intentional. And I think sometimes we're all guilty of writing to-do lists and putting things on you've already done so you can just tick it off. And that feels quite good, doesn't it? Don't do that in this one. Think about things that you're actually going to do, and that you intend to do, but keep it realistic, keep it achievable. When we talk about targets, it's that quite corporate thing. It's a bit of a school thing, a SMART target. So it's short, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's realistic, and it's time related. So can it be achieved today? Is it a realistic thing for me to do? If it's part of a much bigger goal, like I'm intending on redecorating my front room, actually, what do I need to do today? I need to get some paint samples. That's the thing I need to do. So it just needs to be small, realistic, achievable. Can I manage it today? So those, in terms of intentions, it's really good to just write them down because it keeps you accountable. You don't need to tell anybody else. You don't need to share it anywhere. You don't need to show anybody else. It's for you, but it keeps yourself accountable.
Sure.
Then I might come on to some affirmations. And sometimes people go, oh, I'm not sure about that. That doesn't really feel like my thing. What is affirmations? That feels a bit kind of bit out there, but give it a chance. Give it a chance. So really what affirmations are positive statements to yourself. So it's increasing your self-belief, because I think sometimes it's easy to have that little negative voice that tells you you're not good enough, you can't do these things, you're not trying hard enough, you're not, we don't want to feed into core beliefs that are negative. So what we want to do is start to give ourselves positive statements that will really develop our self-belief and our confidence. Some people struggle with this much more than others. So I'm going to give you some examples. So at a very, very basic level, I am enough. I am enough. That's the very most basic one. I love and accept myself. That's another really basic one.
So you were talking about affirmations and how
affirmations.
People can sometimes struggle with this. And, I get the psychology of struggling with it because it can sometimes feel like you're almost faking it till you make it. But I think that the affirmations that you were sharing are ones that are actually intrinsically true. And it's almost like reminding ourselves of that truth that is always there. So Please continue. You were in the middle of an example of one of those affirmations.
Yeah, so I think I love and accept myself. Um, you're right in terms of it can feel a little bit like faking it till we make it. But it's not that. It's actually reminding yourself of the things that you really actually truly believe about yourself. And that maybe you'd forgotten, and that maybe you don't always believe, but it's actually good to give yourself a reminder of that thing. So I love and accept myself. I am good enough. I have the confidence to be able to make that phone call, for example, if somebody doesn't necessarily feel that comfortable with calling somebody they don't want to call, or an appointment they don't want to arrange. I am confident enough to make it. So sometimes it's about giving yourself an aspirational affirmation. It's not faking it till you make it, but it's like thinking about aspirations. But it's also reminders of yourself. I am good enough. I am a kind person. I am a patient person. I am tolerant. I am whatever it is that you feel that you are, that you want to concentrate on that day. So it doesn't need to be 7, 8, 9, 10 things. It could be 1 or 2 positive affirmations for yourself for that day. So in terms of in the morning, when you write things, I would put down some things that you're grateful for, some intentions for the day, and some positive affirmations. That's as much as I would do. You can add to that. You can do other things if you want to. You can add on a scale of 0 to 10, how am I feeling today? What feelings have I got today? You can write down the emotions that you might be feeling that day, or the emotions that you want to feel by the end of the day. You can add those things in at a very basic level. That's all I do, is those 3 things, but you can do more if you wish to. And then what I do is I revisit my journal at the end of the day. And really, for me, it only takes 5 minutes out of my time in the morning and the evening. It's not a big impact on my... That's wrong. It is a huge impact on my day, but it's not a huge time impact on my day. So it's a huge impact on my mindset, but it's not onerous in terms of it doesn't take a lot of equipment. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it has a really positive impact. So at the end of the day, I would always think, right, consider 3 moments of joy. What 3 moments of joy have I had today? And I'll share with you. It's the end of the day here in the UK. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you 3 moments of joy I've had today. So they're not all massive. They're not all groundbreaking, but they've made me smile today, and things that I have enjoyed. I enjoyed watching my son read his poetry at his school today. He was nervous. He did really well. And it was a lovely moment. So that was a moment of joy for me. I worked with a young man at work today who was just delightful. He made me smile from ear to ear. He was an absolute pleasure to be with, and a joy to work with. So that gave me joy. I'm listening to a really good audiobook, and my journey to work was an hour long, so I was able to get an hour of my audiobook listened to today. That brought me joy too. So it's a bit of time to myself and a bit of listening to something that I was really enjoying. So they're my moments of joy for me today.
And you know what's so wonderful about joy is that just listening to what you were joyful about gives me a sense of sympathetic joy as well. So, sharing these feels like they're powerful ways to spread the joy.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Sharing joy is wonderful. Yeah, do it. Absolutely. Most definitely. Go ahead and do that. I mean, you don't have to, but I think it's a really nice thing to do. We do some. I'm just going to share a bit about our life in the house. So I've got 3 children, and so myself and my husband, our 3 children, and we try to sit down for a meal each day, and in the evening for our evening meal, and we take it in turns to be the instructor. And so the instructor gets to ask everybody sitting around the table, tell me something you've really enjoyed about your day today. And we go around and we talk to each other about something we've really enjoyed, and everybody asks lots of questions, so you get to really talk about the thing that you've loved today. And so, of course, the psychologist's children will be talking about that at the end of each day, but it's quite nice, and it's really good to hear about things that people have loved. So spreading the joy is a lovely thing to do. So 3 more moments of joy, 3 things that made you smile, 3 things that made you grateful today. You could go back to that feeling of grateful things I was grateful for, 3 things that brought me joy, 3 things that I love it. I like the word glimmer, the sort of glimmer of positivity, even if it's a really hard day. So, um, our son with TANGO2 said he was really sick earlier in the year. He was in hospital. He wasn't very well at all. But I was still doing this. I was still trying to find things at the end of each day, even if it had been a really hard day. Let me just find some things that just brought me a glimmer of positivity, a glimmer of joy, a moment. And what were they? And being able to find those can be tricky sometimes, but it's good for you to do that. So that's how I would finish my day with my journaling. Now, if a daily journal feels a bit too hefty for you, if it feels a bit too much to do it twice a day, every day, you could use a weekly journal. So you could, on a Sunday evening or a Monday morning, think about, oh, actually, I might want to do this for the week. I might want to set it out for the week. So I might do my things that I'm grateful for at the beginning of the week. I might do my positive affirmations for the week, and I could just look back on that each day. And I just need to read it again. I just have another look at that each day before I then go about my day and carry on, rather than it having so much of a time impact. And then at the end of a week, what I might do is kind of bigger reflections. So I might think about 3 wins that week, 3 things in the week that I thought might not be so good, but they actually were okay. Or I thought that was going to be a 4 out of 10. It actually was a 6 out of 10. So that's good. Or I might think about, yeah, that particular whole day was quite all right. And I enjoyed it because. And I quite like 3 things that surprised yourself. How did you surprise yourself this week in 3 different ways? What was that like? And what were they? So it's sort of, when we talked in the first one about proving yourself wrong, this would be part of that, like proving yourself that you can do it, proving the things that you have set in mind, your intentions. When we talk about intention and goal setting, it can really link to confidence in yourself. So your goals could link to your confidence, your self-confidence. It could link to mood. It could link to personal organization. It could link, well, whatever you would really like. And if you're setting a goal, sometimes it's quite useful to use a scale. So I sort of briefly talked about scales before. 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, whichever way you want to use it. Just make sure you know what 1 means and you know what 10 means. So some people 10's bad and 1's good, or whatever, which way around it is. So if we think about scaling and how to use that, if I said to you, I'd like to be, let's pick out, say, personal organization. I've got loads of life admin to do, loads of like forms to fill in, paperwork to do, and I'd like to be at 9 for being organized for that. Good enough. Use the phrase, what's good enough? You don't need perfect, you need good enough. So what's good enough for me? 9 is good enough, or 8's good enough. Where am I right now for this thing? Maybe a 3. So the jump from 3 to 9 is quite big, isn't it? There's quite a lot of steps in between 3 and 9. So what I want to do is think about how I'm going to go to 4 from 3, because that's much more achievable. So what small things can I put in place for myself to become a 4 instead of to consider myself to be 4 out of 10 rather than 3 out of 10? And each week, we can think about moving forward in very small steps to the next thing, and we would know what we need to put in place. So, for example, I know that I need to fill in this application form for something, and if I get that done, I'll feel a bit more organised. So that would take me to a 4. Rather than thinking I've got this really overwhelming list of jobs to do, I'm going to prioritise. I'm going to do one thing at a time. That would take me to a 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like what we're really doing is we're looking at the areas in which we need to sort of grow, and we're giving ourselves an honest grade in the moment, and we're identifying the steps of what each next grade is, to recognize that that large leap can be broken into small, digestible, easy to take steps that, again, are like building a muscle that sort of build our momentum to getting to where we feel like we want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't feel overwhelming then, does it, if it's a small step and we're building that muscle? Because you're not going to go from not doing anything to kind of completing it. It does take small steps. If you're training for a marathon, you're not going to get up off your couch and run a marathon one day. Most people aren't. You need to train. You need to take it in small chunks, and you need to have a little go each day and get gradually better. So yes, similar to that. I would say get really specific. If you're working on a goal and you want to move forward that one step, get really, really specific. What's going to enable me to do that? You might have heard things like life coaching, or people who kind of coaches being talking in this way. Be really, really specific. What small thing is going to enable me? Let's take that. I've got to fill out a form. What's going to help me do that? Well, it's going to take me half an hour. So I need my partner to cook the meal that night so I can sit down and do it, and I'm going to do it in that frame of time. I need quiet, so I'm going to go and do that in the office upstairs, or I need to call in to work and say, look, I've got this appointment to do. So what really tiny actions do you need to do to get you to fill in this thing? And actually, that's going to take me there. That's going to take me to that next step. And so getting really specific about the things that you need to do is how it's going to help. And write those things down. Write down what this really tiny specific steps are to get you there. I think you kind of alluded to it before as well. Consistency is key, really. So if you want to achieve something, just that kind of lots of little practice every day, doing all the small things that build up to bigger things. With journaling, feeling the benefit is consistency. So, and consistency is more about discipline than willpower. So willpower fades after a while. We've all tried things and then the kind of it fades, isn't it? It's not something that lasts, but discipline does. So, and I don't want that to sound like it's a really negative thing, but if you say every morning I am going to sit with my cup of tea or coffee, I'm going to just do my journal for 5 minutes. That's all I'm going to do, and I'm going to do that every day, and I'm going to set myself a little reminder on my phone, and that's going to go at the same time where I'm going to do it. And then in the evening, I'm going to do the same thing. So set up little reminders on your phone, set up little, things in your apps to do to get you to be consistent. And the more you do it, the better you'll feel about it, and the more you'll get from it.
Right.
So,
Beautiful. This was, Amanda, such a wonderful session full of a lot of great wisdom on how to journal. In particular, what I really loved was that practice of one of your clients who was looking for 3 things to be grateful about in the day that were different, so that she built up a library of 900 to 1,000 plus new things to be grateful for, and then reflected on. And then also the exercise you do with your family of sitting around the table, taking turns being a conductor, asking each person about the great things that happened in that day, and allowing everyone to ask them deeper questions to elaborate on that. They were wonderful.
It's nice. If I'd said to you, can you sit down and write 1,000 things that you're grateful for, you would struggle. You would find that really difficult. But if I said to you, can you write 3 things each day, you would find it okay. You would manage that. So breaking it down into the small chunks. And yeah, it's a lovely way of communicating at the dinner table. Just about hanging on to the 15-year-old still doing that with us, and he still enjoys it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I hope many of our listeners will take to this practice, because it feels like it's powerful even when you're not dealing with something that's difficult. So
yeah,
thank you once
absolutely.
again.
And it's free. You don't need to pay for it. You can just do it.
That's right. Thank you once again, Amanda, for joining us. And this wraps up our series with you on mental health strategies in rare disease.
You are most welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure.